All right, listeners, welcome to tboy swag, which are with our possibly last artist interview. I don't think I'm gonna have the energy to do
Oh, I'm the
any
last
more.
one.
You're the last one. That's
That's
We
wow.
saved the best for last.
Oh,
We
thank
saved
you.
like the fan favorite for last.
The
Um,
fan favorite.
we have a special guest who's been on the show a few times, just a few.
I
um,
have, yes.
would you like to introduce yourself? And oh, wait, I don't know if we've ever had discussed this before, but what do you want a DJ name? What's your DJ name?
Oh, my DJ name. That's a good question. I I think I'm gonna go with DJ Clown Juice.
That's
Named
good.
after the video of the guy who goes, I'm at McDonald's and instead of Sprite, they gave me clown juice, and then he does or eat with the straw. I This is my very funny description of this meme. Please laugh.
I'll try and find like the video to include in the post.
Yeah, I just like clowns. I kind of just like
You just
clowns.
like clowns.
I don't know how to describe it. I tend to use clowns in a lot of my art as well as just in general. So clowns. Hi, my name is Emmett Abrams. I go by he, him pronouns. I am a current senior. Wow, that took me a minute to realize. A current senior at UCLA in my second uh, quarter, almost the last quarter of my time here, which is going to be sad to leave. But um, I'm a senior. I am concentrating in animation and screenwriting, and specifically doing the dual concentration in film and television because I'm interested in writing for animation and development. So everything, or the way that I describe to people, is everything before people start busting out the pencils or the Wacom tablets and the um, all that stuff and start like actually doing the frame by frame animation. I'm more interested in like storyboarding, screenwriting, concept art, all that comes before that. So yeah, that's sort of what I do. I I'm currently working on a book, and I will tell more about that later. That is hopefully coming out in late 2024, called The Trader, and that's going to be through Ulysses Press. And then what else am I up to? My biggest thing right now is I'm working on my two thesis projects, which is the screenwriting track. Is we have to do a feature script and then a script of your choice, which I'm doing a TV pilot and pitch deck. And then I'm doing a 3-minute animated short called Special Delivery that I think a lot of people at UCLA would really like because it stars the starships, the little robots, the delivery robots on campus.
The little workers.
Yes, the little workers.
I love
Um,
them.
yeah, I'm doing kind of a day in the life of a starship um, kind of thing. And so the starship's name is D. They're voiced by the incredibly talented Blair Battle, who is on this podcast, I think a couple episodes ago. Um,
Last episode.
Last episode, wow. Okay, so the relevance, the connections,
I
the
think
mind melding
I
is
think she
happening.
had literally just like came from doing like the recording work to this episode, to the episode.
Oh, oh wow. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I remember her mentioning that. Yeah, she was incredible in that recording booth. Um, and just bringing such a great like improv as well as just like this incredible ability to like inhabit a character very quickly. Um, and she's wonderful as Dee, and I'm really excited for people uh to see that soon. So
Hell yeah. I'm excited to see it as well. I love the starships so much. They're like the most little puppy guys. Like they're little workers, but they're also dog.
yeah, no, that's a big reason why I chose them as a subject to sort of follow in this short, because with this final or with the capstone projects, especially in animation, you want to tell a story that's short and to the point, and that could, I guess, for some people can be seen as a proof of concept for future work, which I wouldn't mind making like a series about these guys. But basically it's about trying to make something that's able to capture a story in a short amount of time. And so I gave myself like 3 minutes, because that's a lot of animation work to do. And already I am having to do a lot of animation work, like just speaking on like frames and the amount of drawings that I have to do per shot. But I wanted to shoot for something that's really like that's doable and that tells a story, but that feels like fulfilled. And I I was thinking about like, what are some things that have really like brought me joy during my time at UCLA, and what are things that have been really memorable. And I thought about those things, the starships, and um I really they're first off really interesting character design, because it's no face really. It's just the wheels and the just this box essentially that's on wheels that's motorized. Um, and so that was a really cool challenge, was like trying to find little details. And mine has like a little eye, so but that means that it's primarily eye based acting. So no mouth movements, no like really eyebrows, just like the lids. I think a good comparison character would be like Wally. Um, so it's working with a very limited range of facial expressions and emotions, but having to translate that into robots and into this, object that is kind of animated, and that it goes around. It definitely has funny moments. Like one of the big things that kind of convinced me that this was a good idea was seeing two of them crash into each other in
Oh,
Westwood.
I didn't know they could do that.
Oh yeah. They just like were going full speed, and I was explaining actually the concept of my short to my dad, because we were hanging out that day, and I'm in the car and I'm explaining the concept, and we look up and these two just crash into each other right in front of us in the sidewalk. And I was like, well, I guess that's my sign. Like I need to make this thing, whether I like it or not.
That's so fucking hilarious. I like that's just destiny. Like you're intrinsically tied to these little robots.
Yeah. And I like robots. I really like looking um at cyborgs and androids and robots. And I think about a lot of my favorite characters through the years in media. Um, and a lot of them are robots. Like I like C3PO, I like R2D2 and all the droids in Star Wars. And then I really like Baymax, as a more recent example. And then Robot Jones is also a uh, big fan of Robot Jones and the art style of that show. And so yeah, I think that it was kind of inevitable that I was going to make something related to robots. And I'm really glad that I get to do it here, and I get to do it in a way that's like very relevant to the Bruin experience, as well as just like talking about life on campus, and as well as like the funny kind of moments put into a perspective that you wouldn't necessarily, it's not like it's not a student, it's not a professor, it's a robot, it's a service robot. And so I think that that's interesting to look at, like, you what life at UCLA is like through the perspective of uh of something like that. So yeah,
I think
that's
that's
sort
like
of the idea behind the short.
that's really cool. And I think like that's the best part of animation. Like the best animations are something from the perspective of another like an anatomy or an in um like unconscious thing. Um and this is like a perfect like very because they're all like on in UCLA. You pass by them all the time. You'll see them on the
Yeah.
way. You'll see them fail to cross the street. You'll see them like um like perform their nightly little hajj back to wherever they come from. I don't know where their spawn point is, but they all it's like salmon. They're like salmon up trying to get home. And it's
Yeah.
honestly like it feels like nature. Like it's like nature's healing. Like
Yeah. No, it's really wild to see them. And I kind of wish if I had more time to work on this short and really just like sort of get in there and like do like reference footage and stuff like that. I think I would really like try and study the way that they move. I have a little bit, just by virtue of like walking around here, but um, I don't know. I guess if I wanted to like take this short sort of to the next level, I would be like, okay, like I'm gonna do a year long study on how the Starship robots move and like how to best express that through animation. But I think I've done a lot of work. I'm not saying this to be like, oh God, I'm just blowing on like fuck whatever. But I think that they're really fascinating, and it's interesting that they've become so sort of ingrained within campus, and that we actually have a lot of like robotics on campus. Another character in my short is the Jamba Juice machine.
oh,
Uh,
that Jamba Juice machine. It reminds me of that like art installation of the machine sweeping up the blood that just
yes,
going out. Like the robot reminds me of that, and it's like kind of horrific.
yes, I love that art piece. And I think that uh, another reason why I really like exploring robotics and robots within my art is because there are so many like layers to it. Because it's like, well, it's humans creating life, which I think is kind of an interesting parallel to the way that animators create life. Um, and all this sort of like, and there's a lot more ethical implications, I feel like, within robotics more so than animation. I think it's unless they our drawings start talking back to us, which that's not going to be good. But yeah,
Animation's
I find that,
unionizing.
oh god, yeah, it's like if Roger Rabbit unionization arc.
It's like, wait, isn't that like a part of the Animaniacs like opening? They have like the pay for play contracts.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I love that show.
Fucking love
And
Animaniacs.
I really like the yeah, the pay for play contracts, and also the way that, yeah, the I like when shows treat animated characters as like they're their own thing, like they're actors almost. Roger Rabbit, Animaniacs are probably like the two biggest examples, but I think more recent one is like Chippendale Rescue Rangers is a good example. I just find that concept so fascinating because it is kind of an extension of this whole like, humans creating other life and like being sort of like weird, like semi gods. um, and so I find that really fascinating. Looking into that and uh, seeing, but I don't know if I'd ever explore that within my own work, but just because there's so many ways to take it, but maybe. So
I don't know.
you never know. Exactly.
I guess like as an animator, because animation is really, it's creating life from nothing. You're bringing about and that's kind of like the beauty of animation, of you can just, instead of having to work on a set where you are limited by like tangible physical limitations of gravity, of space, of the camera cannot do that in this space, you're just kind of like creating your own space. But I was wondering, I guess, for animation, what really drew you to animation over other film? Because I feel like you're like as I've like known you, animation has been like a big special interest of yours. And I'm wondering, I guess, from like the movement from it being just a special interest to a like a professional discipline, what really kind of made you be like, yeah, I want to do this only?
Hmm. That's a, I mean, that's a really great question. I think that it's always been kind of that the wanting to do it professionally has always been a part of that drive. I mean, and I think I've told this story on here again, but I'll tell this story here again. But the first time that I knew I wanted to do something within animation was I was 7. I saw Ratatouille in theaters, and I thought that's really really good. How do they do that? And that sort of set me on this spiral of um, just like I most of my childhood was watching behind the scenes featurettes and stuff of animated films, and just like learning all of the different things that sort of go into it. And I think a part of it was, just like you said, the interest and like curiosity. But I think part of it too is also like an awareness of wanting to do it on a professional level and wanting to be able to create something like that. And so I think that it's hard to really pinpoint that transition, because it's been there for so long. Um, but I will say, I think that it when I started going into like high school and really doing like specific programs, I went to this great pre-college program called CCA, California College of the Arts, up in Rockridge, San Francisco. Oakland, San Francisco. Um, and that was like a huge thing that, like, when I did that program, I think that it there was a realization of, oh, okay, so I'm actually going to be doing, like, this is something that I'm doing. Like, it's not just something that I'm kind of dreaming about. It's something that I'm taking concrete steps towards. And I think that like, especially as I grew older, and I mean, going to UCLA and obviously majoring or essentially majoring in animation, that's a big that was a big step too, of just realizing, I think I guess the way to describe it is it's always been there, but as I've grown older, the realization of like, oh, okay, this is like happening and I'm doing this and nobody's stopping me or saying, no, don't do that, or hey, go be a lawyer instead. It's much more much more profitable. um so I think that was a big thing, was it was sort of like an emerging like consciousness, that's sort of always been there, but it's just gotten more and more elaborate as I've gone further and further into my artistic and yeah, my artistic journey.
That's really, really cool. And I think like it's almost like the tangibility is kind of getting closer. And I can relate to that on my own level of with game development, of just like, wow, I just had to realize, like, oh, I could do this. I'm
Yeah,
actually doing it.
exactly. Oh, I'm doing this, like
Yeah, like I'm
and I
doing
think,
this. Oh, I'm actually doing this.
yeah, and I think a huge part of that was growing up in the era that I did. For anybody who doesn't know, I was born in 2000, and I grew up during the nascence of the internet, and well, at least like modern internet. So thinking about like not like AOL and Yahoo, but more like social media boom. That's the easiest way to say it. Is the I grew up in the age of when social media
Web
first
2.0.
became big. Yeah, Web 2.0. Um, and I think a big thing that that was really gratifying about growing up during that time was everybody was making animation like on the internet. There was a lot of people on YouTube. Um, Newgrounds is another example, though I wasn't a huge Newgrounds person. But there was just an abundance of access to tools and to knowledge. And I think that kids nowadays have even more access to that. Like it's even easier to become proficient in animation and in animation skills. But I think that there was something really exciting about seeing like I'm trying to think of examples, but like um well, Game Grumps was a big one. Like they had the Game Grumps animated and stuff like that. Um, just being able to see that and see people on the internet being able to make not only make careers out of it, but also be able to do that in their own time, like freelance. That was a big thing for me that helped solidify that concept and that really, made it feel like, okay, yeah, this is something that people do for a living, and it's not just like, some fluke or like people, I don't know, manifesting cartoons out of uh the the air thin air.
Yeah. I'm like the discipline typically when you look like, oh, I'm an animator, it typically like it's in like they think about it in the sense of like you are picking up a Wacom tablet and you're drawing the keyframes, or you are on one of like the desk easels doing each keyframe by hand, and or you're doing it in 3D or you're doing it in After Effects, being like kind of the practitioner, but you're approaching it more as a producer, almost like as a production director, writer. Um, why are you drawn to that specific field, I guess, and like what interests you about like what is different about writing for animation as opposed to writing for other disciplines? Kind of like TV and film are apples and oranges, like they're completely different realms of writing. And I'm wondering, as does animation affect that even more?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, I write better than I draw, a little bit, at least in my opinion. And I feel like my writing skills are just like I'm better at approaching it from a writing perspective than a pure art perspective. And that's part of the reason why I went to UCLA instead of somewhere like Cal Arts or an art school where the curriculum is you sit down for 4 years and you learn from foundations all the way up to the 12 principles of animation, like all these and Maya and all these complicated programs. Um, and you come out with a degree and an incredible sense of drawing. And I think that that works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for me because I am really I'm really drawn to storytelling in general. And I think that my philosophy has always been that you can you can tell any story in animation. It's just that people don't really have the balls to do that yet. Like they're just kind of like, ah, the Minions, guys. We got to make the Minions movies over and over again, and nothing else in animation. Um, because of I mean, the if you look at the history of animation, it has always been somewhat of like a family genre. Even though if you go back far enough to like Fleischer in like really early cartoons that was actually more targeted towards adults than it was to children. So that's another thing that's like, well, I'm just going back to the beginnings, guys. I'm not, I'm not trying to uh introduce anything completely novel, but I guess yeah, my thing is that you can tell any story in animation. And I think that the potential to be able to tell any story in animation makes it so that you can really add something that wasn't necessarily there in a live action sense, um, by making it animated. I think that there's a control and um, a design aspect that is there obviously in live action stuff. I mean, there's production designers and all of these roles in costume and set and act, casting and all of that. That is a level of control. But I think that with animation, there's a kind of control that's offered to the creator that just isn't really offered anywhere else. And so I find that that's really appealing to me as someone who wants to go into the field. And I think that there are ways to tell stories in animation that again is not possible in live action, and that can be really deep and enriching. I mean, like one of the big examples recently that people have been like, oh, whoa, crazy, has been Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which I'd say it's I wouldn't say it's like adult targeted, but it has a it speaks in a way that doesn't treat the audience like children, like a lot of animation does, where it's very clearly targeted towards family audiences and towards like a child, or more of a, a childlike understanding of the world and of narrative and of story and complexity. Um, but I think that Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is the opposite of that. It really it it takes all of these complexities and I mean sets this uh fairy tale that we've been so familiar with in fascist Italy, and that's pretty big. And I think that it's I know that Guillermo del Toro, his artistic viewpoint with animation is similar in that it's a medium, it's not a genre, and that uh, he advocates for all kinds of stories to be told within animation because it really does have the potential to do anything. And so I think that just giving more power to creatives like him, I guess like me, if I want to be, hoity-toity about it, um, but giving more power to those narratives that aren't necessarily things that we've seen in animation before, that push the idea of medium over genre. And so saying animation is somewhere, it's a sandbox where you can really put anything that you want within there. And yeah, and I think that what appeals to me about the production side of that is that I just really love storytelling, and I do have animation skills and drawing skills, and I would say that I'm good at that. But I think that there's something really magical about the the first steps of the development process of being able to say, like this is what I want it to look like. Um and I think that a, another thing that I believe is that people on the development side of things should, or at least I encourage them to look towards and to try animating for themselves and try doing that production pipeline. And part of the reason why I've really liked my time at UCLA is because they they've really enabled that within the animation department. You have to, it's very autorial in that you are completing a film by yourself and you have to learn all the different parts of the production process as an animator, rather than just being like, okay, well, we're going to assign groups now, and you're going to be storyboarding and you're going to be doing this and that, where it's, it's good for people who want to go into specializations and stuff. But I think that, and again, I think that it's really made my writing better to know like what the animators that I'm going to be working with and the people, the creatives that I'm going to be working with, what they have to do, right? On sort of a smaller scale, I will admit, but still to an extent to be able to know what that process entails. I think it makes you a better writer and it makes you a more creative writer as well, because you start thinking visually rather than just words. Which I think is something that all writers, live action or animation, at least that's what I'm striving towards. And I think that a lot of writers strive towards. So,
That's really beautiful. And I can really relate to it. What you said about the mediums. I feel like medium, like I'm in film, but I'm mainly interested in game development and like it would and like if I were to write, I would love to write like animation. Just because the total like the medium itself, this goes into like critical media studies of like
yeah.
the medium is the message in the sense like of the medium is meant to exemplify the story being told, not to like um, not as a separate like, oh, this is just a genre. And it's like, no, if you take it seriously, it becomes and I feel like video games is and even comic books are the same way. That animation is viewed as like childish entertainment that isn't really given worth. But once you give it worth, once something is made that is like moving, it's like really beautiful to see like the medium like at its full potential. Um,
Yeah.
it's just wonderful.
To have something that is a world that you have created all on your own. Um, well, maybe not all on your own, I guess with a team of people if we're talking like full scale production, but something that has never existed before. I think that that's something, it sort of goes back to my whole like humans creating life thing. I think that that's a really, it's a big thing to put on people's shoulders, but it's also something that's, kind of incredible and kind of like a miracle that we are able to do this and able to live in a time where this is not only like something that happens, but it happens so often. There's like a whole industry around it. Um, so
Yeah. And I think like what you said about writing of kind of knowing how everything works so you can write better. I think like most right like at least for me, I found like my best work is work like writing my where I know where my limitations are. I know where the bounds of like the board are,
yeah,
and I'm able to fill it up to the fullest capacity.
yeah,
And
no, and it's sometimes hard to see that in uh certain well, I think that's a problem that you could run into like regardless of the production, but I think it happens less. And I say this as a college student and not as someone who's like really super knowledgeable, but I think that it happens less in animation because you are setting like kind of limits to your world and to the things that you're showing. So
yeah, the total control gives you like simplicity is like having the simplicity meet with like exactly what it needs to do is just magic.
yeah.
Um, I guess you said you're for the screenwriting concentration, you wrote a film and you're writing a pilot and a pitch deck. Um, I assume that both of these are animation as well. And I was kind of wondering, I guess, what are they about? Because I feel like animation gets shoehorned a lot of being like a child's medium and that type of thing. And I'm just curious as to what stories you sort of write
Yeah.
in long
Um,
form.
so I won't reveal too much just because I do, I'm hoping to at least someday pitch these concepts, these scripts to people. And so, it's like, well, I don't want to be too
I know
uh
how it is.
yeah, oversharing with the details, but um my feature script is a time travel romantic comedy. Um based on very weird family story of mine, um, where I found out that my grandpa uh, was a lawyer for an entertainment company that shall not be named, but has a mouse for a mascot, so you can guess from there. Um, uh, and he was a lawyer for them in a discrimination case where that company threw out two people from one of their fun zones, fun parks, for dancing together. Two men who were dancing together, they threw them out. And my grandpa was the one who said, um, or who came up with the phrase homosexual fast dancing to describe their actions. Um, and this was something that I found out years and years later, when I was, because I'm a huge theme park history nerd. Um, and I found this out on a video that just had like a screenshot of a paper that had my grandpa's name on it. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? Um, and so that sort of led me on like well, how would I, a gay trans guy, react to that? And that's sort of where my film comes from. And I won't go more into it, but that's the first one. And I am very happy to say that I finished my first shitty draft of it. Um, and I've got my roadmap of what I want to do for rewrites and stuff. So that's good. But I'm very happy to say that I was able to finish a screenplay, or at least get to a point where it's, you've got all the pages. Uh, and then my pilot is more comedy. It's like a workplace comedy based on the idea of so within medical schools, including UCLA's, there is a concept called standardized patients, which is med students need to be able to train on people before they like go out and actually train on people like in the hospital, like people who need treatment, right? Like residencies. Uh, and so what they do is in medical school, they hire actors uh, from outside to help the med students practice. And so the how it works essentially is that the actor is told, okay, so today's exercise is they're going to be giving you a checkup, and this is what they need to do. And you need to act as if like you're a chain smoker, like you've been smoking for years and years, and it's very clear that you have some sort of lung problem and that you need to stop smoking. And you need to make it so that it's hard for the doctor to convince you to stop smoking. And so what the actor does is they play that role, they, chain smoker, and based on what the med student does. So, if a med student is like, well, maybe you should consider not smoking, and like here's the, like they approach it from an actual like medically approved way versus being like, stop smoking now, uh get that cigarette out of your mouth now, which is not okay. So if they do the first way, which is like the approved way, then they're good, they pass the test. But if they do the second way, not good. You need to go back to the drawing board a little bit. And so the actors help evaluate that. And so I thought that's so interesting. Like that's an element of, you know, the medical system that is just not really seen at all, or like really even talked about. And I thought, you know, I want to make a workplace comedy about that. So that's essentially the gist of my two ideas. And yeah, that's my, those are the two scripts that I'm working on. And then of course I'm doing my special delivery short. And that didn't really have a script. It was more like I just went straight to storyboards. But I had like the writing in mind. So that did technically, it was a piece of writing that I worked on. It's just like it's kind of different when you're working on a animated short, because it's not as linear, like, oh, you're making a script and then you're doing this and doing that. Like as it is when you're on like a studio production, especially because you're a student, because you're just starting to do this shit. Like you're not, you know, you're kind of just trying to get things done rather than being like,
Oh God, I didn't follow step 21B of the studio approved writing and storyboarding and animating process. So
You're just some guy trying to make a little short.
I'm just some guy trying to make a little short and be funny, make people laugh. I mean, that's really my biggest thing, is that I put joking, or well, half jokingly, on my stuff that I'm a professional jester. And I really do believe that. I really like making people laugh. And I think that when I think about, you know, the hard times in my life and the things that I've gone through, and the media that's really reached out to me, both animated and live action, it's the stuff that's made me laugh, and the stuff that's, you know, made me think, it's not too bad. I'll be all right. You know, I'll keep going. So that's a feeling that and an inspiration in general, like just to be able to inspire somebody. Like that's my end goal, is to make people laugh and to maybe inspire them to, you know, I don't know, create something, or, you know, pursue what they want to pursue, and, you know, have a good time.
Yeah, I think that's a really, like, it's such a sincere place where that comes from, of like that, like it is communicated in your art. I think it's really beautiful.
I will be insincere for a second and say that we also, animators and people in the animation industry, we also do this because we need to like survive and make money. That is a part of it.
Jokes
But
sell. Funny shit
jokes
sells.
sell, and that is, you know, Family Guy funny moments. Hey, it's making somebody money, and that somebody is Seth MacFarlane. So
For better and for worse.
for better or for worse.
Mainly for worse.
I don't know. I have nothing against the guy. Look, he's made his career doing this. And I'm turning directly towards camera and looking straight into the lens, and I'm gonna say that Seth MacFarlane, if you want to hire me, I would be glad to work on Family Guy. Especially if the pay is good. I'll write Brian dying and then coming back, and then dying again over and over again. I'll write that episode. I will write the Jesus Brian episode if you want.
The Groundhog Day Brian.
The Groundhog Day Brian episode.
God, that's just,
Yeah. No, and it's acknowledging that films are not, and movies and like any sort of media is not made by one person. We tend to do that with directors and be like, ah, yeah, the director just woke up and made this movie and did it completely on their own and nobody else helped. And it's like, well, no, there were a whole bunch of other people involved in the creative process who worked their asses off and who deserve credit and recognition for that. A big example of this, and I think that within the animation world has been kind of seeing at least a little bit more discussion, is Ren and Stimpy, because John Kay, the director, is not a good guy. Look it up. I'm not going to describe it on the show here because it's very much like it's gross. The stuff that he did was very gross. But he wasn't the only, like, there were a lot of really talented animators and artists and writers even who worked on Ren and Stimpy and who made Ren and Stimpy like a good and interesting show. It wasn't just him. And I think that if we can kind of get past that like singular hero worship of media, I think that that's another way that maybe we can kind of like crack open a little bit like media discussion of media that isn't just so like singularly like this is good or this is bad. So
Yeah. I think like even like I got into watching South Park. We've talked about this and you've judged me for it. And it's it's like I'm like, yeah, fair. I'm not winning in any respect. Like I've lost a bit. Like this is
look. It's I would never judge anybody. It's just not my personal cup of tea. But look, you know, it is such an important show within the history of animation. Like I can be like, not really the show that I like. It'd be like objectively, this is like an important.
Objectively, this is a seminal piece of pop culture media that is changed so much, but also not my cup of tea. That's fair.
Exactly. Yeah.
I never
that's
thought
how you should approach it.
That's how I approach it is like I've approached it in multitudes. There's one level where I'm like, this is a new low that I didn't know previously existed for me. Because I went through my entire life with a white Gen X mom.
Yeah.
Who would quote South Park randomly. And I'd be like, I'm not going to learn a single thing. Like I didn't know the main force names, like all of them. I just knew Cartman and Kenny, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then now it's like there's like a multitude of like having in the same hand, like South Park has contributed to so much of like the whole South Park Republican effect of that purposeful misinterpretation. They have that on one hand, but they also have this weird leftism in the other, at least in their newer seasons. Like they have one of their newer episodes. It was like about like Amazon unionization in like a pro-union way. And I was like, and they were like saying like, fuck Jeff Bezos. And like in a very like nuanced, like worker centric way. And I was just like, where the fuck am I? Like, where am I? But like these two exist, and it's very fascinating to see like them seeing multitudes in equal harmony with another, where it's like,
yeah,
like I can't write it off completely because it's still like beautiful in a degree to watch it all come together.
Yeah, no, and I am really fascinated by human multitudes and the way that we've evolved over time and our history and the weird like back and forth that you can find, especially within trans history, of the rights that we've earned and then the rights that we've lost, and sort of this earn loss like and the different cultural perceptions and notions and ideas of gender that have been either like wiped out or just kind of shoved to the side by a very Western centric, like very conservative idea of gender. And that's kind of what I'm talking about within my book, or at least I'm hoping to, because my book, The Traitor, which is coming out in May 2024, is about a trans guy from medieval times. He's a Marquis de Sade, I think. Oh fuck, why am I like, hold on. Don't put this in. Uh the Comedy dell'arte.
Oh, Commedia dell'arte.
Yes. Okay, come back here. Comedy dell'arte. He's one of those performers, and he's a trans guy, and he's living his life, and then he meets a wizard one day, and it's kind of like, yeah, well, I'm not, I kind of wish I was in a world with people like me, and I wasn't just having to kind of live the life that, very much like, he wants the grass is greener on the other side. And so this wizard sends him to modern times, and it's definitely not like what he imagined or expected. It's much, much harder. And it's sort of inspired by me going to the DMV to try and change my gender marker on my license, and having to do that 8 times and being like, if I lived like in a time before DMVs and all of that, like I wouldn't have to worry about this. I could just like run
Lie.
off into the forest and lie.
Yes. You could just skip town, go to another town, and lie.
Exactly. Like and so it's my exploration of trans history through the years, as well as like the weird, like the weirdness of this current moment, in that we have both an incredible level of acceptance and positivity and trans joy and community, and also an incredible amount of hate and suffering and terribleness that we have to face. And the I guess the message that I want to get across with my book is that our we're not this is not like something that has just come out of thin air. We have always been here. And if you look in history and throughout, many civilizations and societies like that, that's true. And that all of those, I guess, that there will always be a community and a desire and a need for this, and for people to be together as trans people, and to love each other. And I think that, like that, I mean, that's the biggest thing. It always comes back to love for me, right? It's always love, and finding the hilarity in it, and just the just remembering that there have been so many people before you, and there will be so many people after, and that and to keep that in mind as you're fighting the good fight, and just which honestly is just existing, like is just existing as a trans person, like just existing. I think as a trans person right now is an act of rebellion, and an act of resistance against a greater body that does not want that. So yeah, that's sort of the main theme, a little bit behind the book. Very easy, like digestible, bite-sized concepts that are like very, super super small, definitely not like spanning across universes and centuries and time and space.
That's really beautiful, and a really interesting way of examining trans history, of like where you're kind of taking the historical figure, and it's not like a paradise, it's not utopia coming into the present day. This isn't utopia.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful. I can't wait to read your book. It looks like
Yeah.
we gotta wrap up a little bit.
Yeah. No worries.
But do you have any last closing thoughts, statements?
I don't have anything besides please keep an eye out for the film tell if you're interested in seeing my film or any of the other films for the class of 2023, please keep an eye out. There is going to be screenings in, I believe, June for all of the undergraduate thesis films. That's not just me in animation, but also my friends in live action and cinematography. Everybody is going to be presenting something that shows what they did this year as their capstone project. And then there's also going to be an animation screening that is both undergrad, which I believe I'm the only undergrad animation senior at the moment. So that might be kind of funny, but not just undergrad, but also MFAs, so masters of fine arts. They are also screening their works, and they're also incredible within the animation department. And so just keep your eyes out. If you are interested in seeing our films, please go and see them. And if you can't make it, I know that I am going to be posting my film soon after the screenings. And just keep an eye out on my social media. My art Instagram is at Nylon Bandit. That's nylon as in like the type of fabric, and bandit as in the type of thief. And so yeah, just if you're interested in any of my stuff or in any of the class of 2023 in film, just keep an eye out for those two things. And hopefully you'll be able to come, because we put a lot of effort into this, and a lot of love, and we want to see you there. So yeah.
Totally. And I am excited to see your film and everyone else's film as well. I'm hyped for your film, but I will trust I will be there no matter what. I will figure out a way. Because I might be in New York, but I will find a way to get back. That's a wrap. I think it's great having you as my last guest. It feels like it's a fitting last guest to have.
Oh, well,
yeah, one of my near and dear friends. So, I'll link. Do you have any? I can link your art account and stuff.
Yeah, just my art account, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'll link some shit. Go check Emmett out. I'll be sure to like repost once you like have some dates for like your films and stuff. And yeah, fuck yeah, it's great to have you here.
All right. Yay.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.